everybody. Say good morning. All right, take your seat in the presence of the Lord. Yes, that. I'm sitting down today because I'm tired. Thank you. Yeah, that part of the record is intact. So we've been doing Q&A, and I've been trying to help you establish kind of a framework for forgiveness. And so I'll dive a little deeper into the definition. So if you would, pull that up. From your questions, I'm trying to figure out in God where to kind of go to fill in some of the gaps. So I'm going to go back over the definition, which when I listened to the sermon last week, actually covered the whole definition. I was like, man, it's amazing what you do when you ain't trying. So I'm going to go back and fill in a little more. Where I'll probably go after that is, because here's where I'm debating. Do I go into the 10 reframes, or do I go into sort of the doctrinal foundation? And I know if I'm talking to Fern, it's doctrinal foundation. So I don't even need you to say nothing, Fern, because I already know what your vote is. Your vote has been cast in stone for years. But it's relative to how deep I'm going. I did finish writing the book. As it currently stands, you're looking at about 200 pages. And possibly more than one workbook. Because right now we're just dialoguing in case you hadn't figured it out. More than one workbook, because there's a part of it that I call in-game. And I found myself working on that part. And that's, in-game was developed from me walking with people at the end of their marriages. And yeah, I know Christian church, we ain't supposed to say that happens, but it does. But how do you walk through that and be faithful in the dismantling of your marriage? Because it's not like you'll divorce and then God will pick back up on the other side when you're done. Your requirement to be faithful is even through disaster. So in-game came out of quarantine, which some of you I walked with will know. But as I put the actual workbook together, I realized it became a thing. So different sections of this relative to how you struggle will probably wind up producing several workbooks. So I'm just kind of bringing you in on the picture of it. What I need your most profound prayer for is three things relative to this: publisher, editor, and a marketing strategy. Okay? Yeah, I'm giving you my prayer request. Publishing, marketing, strategy. Because I don't like like selling my stuff. I guess it's the way that, you know what I mean? It just feels nasty. But it needs to be done. You know, it's as important as writing it. So I got to get over myself. So those three things, I would solicit your prayers. So with that, let's go back into the definition. Let me pull it up. Yeah, I should have bought the laptop out. Because now my thing is acting funny. Here we are. And that's not the one I want. Live television, people. All right, here we go. Needless to say, I've got multiple files that I'm looking at because I wrote 4 iterations of it. So in looking at our definition, I structured the definition around all the aspects of forgiveness instead of just like I gave you the edited version. It's coming to terms basically with our shared humanity. All of our struggles are tied to the refusal to be human. Okay? All of our struggles at a human level are all tied to our refusal to be human, and it tracks back to Genesis. Because here's what the devil put on the table. Being human is not enough. When you break down the presupposition of his argument basically was fundamentally, you need to aspire to be something other than human, presupposition, and that's actually available. Now just process that for a minute. They're having this conversation. And in the conversation, he implies, as a matter of presupposition, and when I use the term presupposition, because I live in that place, I need you to understand what I'm talking about is the part of it you never think about, but that you're always acting on. So when you hear me use the term presupposition, I'm talking about the place where you have already settled stuff that you don't even think that you need to go back and revisit, that you settled that, because that presupposition may always lead you wrong. Does everybody understand? So presuppositionally, it should have been a hold up, wait moment. Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Genesis chapter 3. Let me know when you're there. Shouldn't take long. Should not take long. Some pages should just open up in your Bible if you lay it down, if you've been here for a while. Now, in verse 1, so again, let's just go back to, we spent all that time talking about the state God left us in. The state God left us in was, behold, I have given you everything that you need. Observe the way I created creation. And we went into light and what light means relative to life. Anybody remember any of that? So what God did was he created us with a limited amount of sufficiency. Say that again. God created us with a limited amount of sufficiency. You're not like a nuclear aircraft carrier where it's decades before it needs to refuel. The nuclear subs can just be out there. Pop up 10 years later, fire their missiles if the people are still alive. And that's nuclear power. That's just how it works. It ain't at the gas station. You're not talking gas mileage. We're more like a car in terms of fuel. And in fact, you need refueling more than your car does. So you need to understand you've been created with the limited capacity in a fully sufficient world. I need you to hear that. You've been created with a limited capacity in a fully sufficient world. The problem is, you think the world is insufficient and that you have full capacity. And that is the core of your faith. Is anybody hearing what I'm saying? That's the core of your faith. The core of your faith is given enough information, given enough time, given enough access, I got this. I got this. I'm cool. Truth be told, given enough money, I don't need you. I don't need nobody. Because I believe in the full sufficiency of me. I just need resources and opportunity. And I'm looking at you posing a threat to both. So what I'm not comfortable with is my inherent insufficiency. I have not gotten to sin yet. I'm going to say this. We were created sinless in Adam and Eve, not perfect. They were always going to need God. Christ, sinless, thirsty. Christ, sinless, hungry. Christ, sinless, mad. Christ, sinless, grieving. Is anybody? In his perfection, he took on humanity, which meant his perfection had to be covered in human imperfection. He alluded to it when he made this statement, I have meat you don't know nothing about. Because I've retained some stuff from when I was in heaven. I didn't give it all up. But I did have to come down here and condescend. And in condescending, I had to become less than. Anybody? So the whole thing you have to understand is that the system is built in abundance to match your insufficiency. So he starts with the earth, he creates the earth, and he makes the earth sufficient for our insufficiencies. Now, here's the problem with being insufficient. The problem with being insufficient is the delusion that you're sufficient. As I said, I don't need nobody. I got this. You don't got this. Not only do you not got this, you never had this. Is everybody? Now, again, the devil comes in. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. First order of creation is to understand the devil himself is made. He himself is made. He is part of creation. He is not a threat. Everybody has to understand. Anything created is not a threat to its creator. Because the best you'll manage is an artificial form of what God is. You didn't hear what I just said. The best the devil can mount is AI spiritual. It's the best he can do. And there's some questions you ask AI and it'll tell you, yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not equipped to do that. It'll cop to its insufficiency, the devil won't. Now, here's what you have to understand. The devil became the devil because he wasn't comfortable with his insufficiency. You didn't hear what I just said. The devil became the devil because he wanted to elevate his throne above God. Now watch this. It isn't that he didn't have a throne. He just wasn't comfortable with what he had stewardship over. It wasn't enough. His domain wasn't enough for him. It didn't feed him. Does anybody? So he looked at God and said, here's the solution. I'll just top you. You want to talk about in the history of history, the most tragic results? He was put out of heaven at the speed of light, but faster than time. Light years. He was cast out light years. So like when you look up at light at night, that's light that's been there for millions of years. You're seeing it like it's now. Like, oh, wow. Ooh, it sure is bright out tonight. You don't have no clue how long it took for that to. Yeah, okay. Just understand and conceptualize that. That's how fast he got put out of heaven. So he's having the thought and the conversation. How did I get here? As he's having the thought and conversation. Now, one of the things that should help you with is the notion that how does God know everything? Because you're not light. And light does time different than time. Speed of light? I'm light. That's how I get it. You still with me? So he's crafty, meaning he's manipulative. Which means anytime you're talking to him, he has an agenda. You're not having the conversation you're actually having. You're getting gamed. You still with me? Said to the woman, did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not, what? Eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it. Which from all indication of Scripture is her adding. Because you don't even have to add that lest you touch it if you're just never going to eat it. But I get it, I'm going to make sure I don't eat it because I ain't even going to touch it. But here's the problem with that concept. You believe the victory is in the managing of your actions. If I can manage my actions, I'll have victory. But there's a certain amount of insufficiency in that presupposition, is that even if you manage your action, you can take action inside your head that will have you taking action outside of life. So Action starts in the head. It will eventually wound up your hands and feet. What she didn't manage was her hands and feet. Well, she tried to manage her hands and feet. What she didn't manage was the internal conversation she would be having with herself, which is an action unto itself. It is the foreplay to sin. So he tells her, you cannot eat of the fruit. But watch what the serpent says. The serpent said to the woman, first of all, you will not surely die. It implies an ability to overcome stuff that God does not say we have. Here's the first delusion. The first delusion is you can take on God and survive. That there is the shot that you could win. He might be insufficient in this area. I think God can be God. That's what he's saying to her. It's not that sure. Now, here's the irony in that and why he is called the father of lies. He had already tested the theory. He knows surely. I'm here off of the surely plan. I am here talking to you off of the surely you will plan. But I'm telling you, you do it. But watch what he says. For God knows that when you eat of it, what will happen? Your eyes will be open and you will gain sufficiency. That's the presupposition in this. You will gain sufficiency. How? You will be like God, knowing good and evil. Only one thing wrong with that. His knowledge of good and evil is tied to superior wisdom. Your knowledge of good and evil is limited to personal experience. So in gaining the knowledge of good and evil, you are actually gaining access to who you are and what you are. I need you to hear this. You are gaining access to who and what you are and the ability to judge it. Watch this. Outside of shared humanity. He didn't say you will have your eyes open. He said your eyes will open, but you won't share the vision. See, God's eyes are open, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, but the vision is shared. Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Neither one of them has a view outside the other. They are always operating in their shared divinity, which is their ultimate leverage point over the universe that they created, so it will never overtake them. I hope you're processing this. But watch what happens. So when the woman saw, what did she say? She saw something she touched in her mind. Not only did she touch it in her mind, tasted it, hated it, got down the road and was retrospectively able to reflect that it was good for food. Indirect opposition to God. Now watch what he said. When you eat, you will gain knowledge of good and evil. meaning you don't have that prior to. And you're making judgments about what is good and what is not when you do not possess the ability to even judge that. Your eyes aren't open. And your eyes are not going to be open till you commit the sin. And then your eyes will be open so you can see your sin. You didn't hear what I just said. He says, the day you do, your eyes will be open and you'll be aware of sin. Here's the problem going in. I can't see the sin because my eyes aren't open yet. So what I'm seeing is what I've created apart from God. I'm saying this because this is fundamentally the human condition. To look at stuff and think we know before we do it. And then when we do it, our eyes get open that, wow, okay, that didn't work. Yeah, man, I hadn't really fully thought that through. And I'm stuck with this is how it makes me look. Anybody? God knows that when you eat thereof. Now, what he's implying is that God put a regulator on your glory. What do I mean by that? Years ago, when I bought my BMW, they made it in Germany. They ship them here. At the dealer, the guy said, hey, shouldn't be telling you this, but there's a regulator on the car. It'll say 150. It won't do 150 because it's got a regulator on it that'll keep it from doing the actual 150. Now, you can do 150, but you're going to have to swap out the chip. And then you can do the 150. That's kind of the devil's. God put a you know you could do 150. It's right there. Look at it. Look at it. You could do it. So you sit and you imagine yourself on the Autobahn. Not the I-5. Because the I-5 won't let you do Autobahn speed. But the Autobahn is designed because they're looking at you crazy if you're under 100. Like, man, what you driving slow? They got Volkswagen Rabbits over there that'll do that. So the devil comes and he basically says, you should be more. And God put a regulator on you. He capped what you can do because you're a threat to him. And he's threatened by your potential. And so he's holding back from you because he's threatened by your potential. And now she is in pursuit of her potential outside of God. So I don't need God. Not only do I not need God, you need to understand this act was taken not as a conspiracy, but as an individual's choice to sin. That's important. Because she was seeking something for her humanity. Uh-oh. Now, the dynamics of that from a gender standpoint linger to this day. You don't hear no conversation about empowering boys. We assume they're already empowered. Have you spent time with boys? Really? They're getting together, planning all this patriarchy stuff. They destroy everything they touch. There's no place they leave, and you're like, wow, that's better. But these are the ones somewhere off in the lab planning the destruction of humanity. Lest we forget what God said about them. Watch this. Because they need a governor. They need something to they need somebody asking them questions. Right? So how are you going to pull that off? Had you thought about this? I don't think it's going to work. You need to be frustrated enough to not have all of your faculties. I'm doing my best. You will not surely die. So she takes over the process through the imagination that I can be better than human. That's her process. I can be better than human and live apart from God. Because the tree, he said, was not good for food, I have already recalculated. And is now officially good for food, even though I did not create it and I have not tasted it. I can taste it, though. I haven't tasted it, but I'm telling you, I could taste it. And not only is it good, it's good for me. I have no way of running that test except to run simulation. So essentially, when it comes to sin, sinners are AI versions. All sin is the product of artificial intelligence. You done plug some stuff in and it looks good coming back. But when your professor gets your paper and reads your references and your references don't connect to nothing actually researched, while your paper was phenomenal in terms of its read, eloquent, and it made all these points that don't track back to fact. That's sin. I have heard people elocute sin at the highest levels and tell me why God is crazy. Why can't I sleep with whoever I want to sleep with, how I want to sleep with him? He's just killing my fun and choking out my experience and my development and my evolution as a man. And you know that dog is just in us. We got to go hunt. What's your research that says that's true? With your daddyless self. Like, good luck with that. Because you moved into luck, not reason. So she runs the simulation in her head. And the simulation is, I am not bound by my humanity. The rules don't apply to me. I went up into the Sequoias last year, and what I'm always fascinated by is how very clear the National Park Service is about don't go here, don't stand here, don't get in this water, don't climb down there, don't lean over here. There are signs everywhere that say where to go, where not to go. Stay on the trail. And you just keep seeing it. Stay on the trail, stay on the trail, stay on the trail. And what fascinates me is to watch the people who believe that actually does not apply to me. And YouTube is full of examples I love YouTube for being a truth bearer in that way. I can stay up till 4 a.m. in the morning watching people visit and watching people like walk up to Buffalo with signs all around saying, leave the buffalo alone. And all the people saying, get back, get back, get back, but filming it. Because that's how we are. Like, get back, I don't want nothing to happen. Ooh, here it's coming. And then buffalo just take off. Next thing you know, dude in the camera. The buffalo is now juggling the camera and the dude. Phone on this. Yeah. Because we don't believe the rules apply to us. In terms of our shared humanity. Let's see if I can break it down even tighter. So you get married. And you are not comfortable with your insufficiency, nor your spouse's. Yet your plan to solve this problem is to assume sufficiency that your partner doesn't have. So let me see if I got this straight. I am uncomfortable with your insufficiency. I'm uncomfortable with mine. So the way I'm going to make this thing sufficient is I'm going to take on the sufficiency in this relationship. And you, the insufficient one, just simply needs to listen to my sufficiency. And we're going to be fine. Okay, so let me see if I got this straight. Then we're not sharing anything but your sufficiency. That is the sum total of our relationship. Our relationship works because we share your sufficiency, which does not exist. Which is why you won't go to counseling when I say we need to go to counseling. No, we don't. We just got a communication problem. Okay, fix it. I am. We're not going to counseling. I was clear. Because I don't want no counselor talking about my insufficiency. So what we see here is it becomes impossible to share our humanity. Let's see how the sin unfolds. So the eyes are open. They knew that they were naked. I'm in verse 7. And what's their first move? Cover my insufficiency. Here's what I'm not doing. I'm not acknowledging my humanity. I'm actually covering it. Because I'm no longer comfortable with my personal humanity, which means I can't share my humanity. I just made relationship impossible. You didn't hear what I just said. I just made relationship impossible moving forward. Because I am not comfortable with my humanity. So I'm covering my humanity so you'll never have access to my full humanity, which means we can't share our humanity, which means relationship is impossible. I mean, we can relate. We can't have a relationship. So in relating, I use you to make up for the fact that we don't have a shared humanity. And we can't tap into the abundance of the environment because that would mean that my ego would suffer. And I'm still managing my insufficiency. So I can't turn to what God has for abundance because that gives him glory. And I'm over here in shame, needing to have the glory. I'll put it this way. I want us to win, but I want to be the reason why we won. So that even if we're winning, I got problems with how we're winning, which is why I have problems with the fact that you're making more money than me. And we're living a lifestyle I would never qualify us for. But because I'm not the one qualifying us for this, and your name's like on the credit, and 700 plus is on your side, minus stuff is on my side. So while I do want you to co-sign for that car, and since your credit qualifies for a Benzo sitting on Lorenzo's, why shouldn't I have it? And so I have it, but I kind of hate you because of the way I had to get it. So I can't even receive your love through that because I kind of hate you. Because every time I hop in it, it's still registered in your name. I know you got it for me, but I would have rather gotten it for myself. So while, don't get me wrong, I will floss it. I still know I'm naked. I didn't clothe myself. Yeah. Oh, I've been there. Yeah. Actually, I'm at this point so there I'm having my mail forwarded to this current address. So they were triggered by the presence of God because the presence of God triggered their insufficiency. That's what the triggering was. It triggered their insufficiency. And all of this chapter is just them descending deeper and deeper into their own insufficiency and engaging in more and more effort to cover that up. How do you know? There is the escalation from leaves to trees. First, I could get away with the leaves. Now I need a whole forest. So I could hide myself with leaves, and then God shows up. Now I need to hide in the trees. That's the escalation. And you see it all throughout the world. You know, why do you need to bling out a $1,200 phone? Why wasn't the fact that it was a $1,200 phone speak enough to, okay, I'm paid? I got a $1,200 phone. But I got to make it look like more than yours. Because you got a $1,200 phone too. It can't be that we share in being paid. I got to have something that's paid-er. So my Bentley gets wrapped. And I wrap my Bentley in a shiny color that shouldn't be driven anywhere where the sun is shining. You should only be able to drive that thing in the rain. Some of you know what I'm talking about. So I want you to process this because this is why forgiveness is so important and why the whole goal of it is it's designed to get us to come to terms with our shared humanity. What I'm really trying to point out is that as simple as that sounds, we're not pursuing shared humanity. All you have to do is watch politics in the news and you know no one's pursuing shared humanity. We're just trying to say my reasons for killing you are more sufficient than your reasons for killing me. I got a better explanation as to why I'm heinous. But I'm not really heinous, I'm just defending myself. And all I'm defending, if you listen, is my vulnerability to you. My solution is not to come to a place where we share our humanity. My solution is to come to a place where yours no longer exists either societally and status-wise or physically. I need you to ponder that, because that's what's happening in war, but that's also what's happening in your relationship. I must totally destroy and obliterate who you really are to make you not be a threat to who I know I really ain't. Is anybody seeing this? So they hide among the trees. And here's the beauty of how God flows. He's not coming in. So they hiding in the trees. He didn't send out a search party. Adam, where are you? ¿Dónde está? Where are you, Adam? I want you to look at how this turns out. Where are you? What's his response? What's his first response? I heard the sound, and I was triggered. I heard the sound, and I was triggered. And I was afraid. Why? Because I was naked. And I hid myself. You need to understand, they both hid themselves, not together. It wasn't like a conspiratorial act where they looked at each other and like, I think that might be God. It was more the African American version. Somebody started running. And if one person start running, you just spooked the whole herd. That's why they don't want you near them buffalo. They don't want you spooking the herd. Does everybody understand? Because he's speaking to his personal experience. I heard the sound of you, and I ran. I would love to know how that really went down. Like, did he run off like here and she ran off like here? Or did they like ran and then like, I'm gonna split up because, you're slower, he'll get you. I'd love to know like some of the details of how that went down. Just my own spiritual curiosity, that's all. Yeah. Or I'm gonna hide with you just so if one of us get caught, we both get caught. What was the thinking in that? I'm sure it was selfish. So he calls him out, and he cops too. Heard you, became afraid, and I hid myself because I did not believe you could handle my inadequacy. Why? This is not his first visit. I need you to hear this. God had been handling his inadequacy. He just didn't know he was inadequate. This is his first experience of inadequacy. And his solution is to detach. There is a whole division of psychological research about attachment theory and how all of who we are and the tension and fear that we live with is tied to the level to which we feel attached to others. And if you play with a child's attachment, they never fully recover. They become managers of attachment, not attached. Anybody hearing what I'm saying? So God needed to come up with a mechanism for us to come to terms with our inadequacy. Watch this. That restores our understanding of his glory and our need of each other. I'm going to say that again. God had to come up with a system that restores his glory and our ability to accept his glory. Why? Because his glory triggers our inadequacy. So how am I going to get in the presence of a God who triggers my inadequacy? Well, he's not going to dim his glory. Let's just start with that. Because if I was, I'd already done it, but I'm not going to do it. But we still need to have a relationship because I created you so inadequate, you need me. Which is why the prayer is daily and not bi-weekly or monthly or annually. And I already said it's not good for you to be alone. You just told me the results of you being alone on your own for the first time. Heard you, scared, self-assessment. And my strategy was to put increased distance. Watch this. So I wanted the physical distance to match the spiritual distance. So I ran and I hid myself. Now, you in all your sovereignty and glory called me out. How you just gonna call a brother out? Because that's him being forced to come to terms with his own humanity. So when God says, where are you? It's not geographic. It's how did you get here? Dude. We're a chapter away from you being created in my image. What happened? And what's God's question? The result of this. Who is now informing you of your adequacy? Because it's not coming from me. That is a question every day you wake up with. That's it right there. Your every action is to answer that question. Every encounter you have on your job is your answer to that question. Who told you who you are? Your sense of identity. Where is your sense of identity coming from? That's why you cuss the people out at your job. That's why somebody cut you off on the road. Give them the one finger salute. All of your response to your spouse, to your children, it's all triggered by that. Now, it would be lovely if none of us had issues. We all have an issue. It's called sin. We just haven't learned as sinners to manage the sin in others. That's our problem. As sinners, we have not learned to master the sin in others. Because if we could actually master the sin in others, we wouldn't have to deal with our sin. I wish you guys understood what I'm saying. Now, I want you to see how this unfolds. He asked him, and look where he goes. We didn't sin out of shared humanity. I sinned because the woman you gave me is inadequate. That's the problem. She's inadequate. I'd have done better if you had given me better. I don't know what to tell you. This ain't on me. This ain't my fault. What's a brother to do? It's like she put the fruit all in my face. Some of you are hearing that at the level that I also am teaching. What was I supposed to do? That has sat in my office and said that to me. I'm like, you were supposed to not eat the fruit. We had a whole wedding for you to say you had one orchard. One orchard. Yeah. It's the woman you gave me. You gave me inadequate resources. I would have been adequate had you given me adequate. I'm not inadequate. But I just told you I was. And this is the paradox we live with. We say one thing about our inadequacy, but we live in a way that just actually shows it. Because here's what he just copped to. The leaves didn't work, and neither did the trees. How do we know? Because he says, I was naked. Well, you weren't naked. You were covered with leaves, and you had hid yourself. You weren't naked. Yes, I was naked, because hiding in those trees, I realized they're not covering me. So all of my strategy to cover up my inadequacy is just a lot of work. Because in the quiet time by myself, I still know I'm naked. I still know it doesn't work. So yeah, I got the address, I got the car, I got the job, I got the dime, I got the whatever else is achievement and measurement. And it's not enough. So let me bling out this phone and wrap this car. Yeah. Still with me? I'm almost done. So again, God asked him to reflect on where are you deriving this information from, because it's fake news. Then the Lord God said to the woman, I want you to observe the unique questioning. The question to Adam was, where are you? It was a question of reflection. He asked her, what is this that you've done? And he's not talking about rehearsing the sin. You ever notice when men mess up, we ask, what were you thinking? When women mess up, the issue is, had you thought this out long term? Do you understand that the very thing you say you're trying to have, you ain't having with this? Oh, I just want somebody to love me. That's not dude. That's not dude. That ain't it. Oh, y'all don't hear me. He asked, what is this that you've done is an indication of, do you understand the consequence of this over time? You're getting relief from your short-term pain only to produce a chronic condition. But it's not my fault. I was tricked. Please hear me. You cannot be tricked knowing truth. The only way you get tricked is you transform the truth. He asked her very clear, what has God said? She was clear. This is what God has said. All he said was, I don't think you can count on that to be fact. Now, he even as the devil left the possibility, this might not work. He didn't say it wouldn't work. He said, you won't surely die. Not like, it's not 100%. She heard that and said, so you're saying there's a chance? Adam blames the woman blames the devil. Because neither one of them were comfortable with their inadequacy and their shared humanity. So they put barriers between them to keep them from sharing their humanity. To bring all of those walls down that have evolved into culture, because that's all those walls are. Just everything we call culture is one of those walls. The way we eat, the way we do business, what we think is art, all that stuff. All of that stuff are leaves and trees that we're hiding behind. Politics, even the stuff that you see being put out that says, oh, I read the Bible and the Bible says this, and so we need to cap and govern what you can do in the public square, even though the public square is for, by definition, the public, even the public you don't like. So if I say this is the meeting place and then I restrict you from meeting in the place that all of our taxes have been pulled to keep open, then are you then going to say, well, for the trans and the rest of the LGBT alphabet, y'all get your taxes lowered because you can't do what everybody else's taxes allow them to do in public? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You want to know why what I said is not a problem for me as a Christian? Because I don't believe in governors. Come on. Yeah. Real king. I believe a sovereign God gets to the heart of who he needs to. And the only way you're going to change people is to ask them, where are you, and are you aware of the long-term impact of how you're living? God is well able, we see in the 3rd chapter, to ask those questions on his own. He does not need solicitation. So if you're going to say, and I say this as a black person descendant from slaves, if you're going to say there's certain things that people can't do in public, you are 5 seconds away from repealing my rights. Now, I'm confident enough in faith that if you open up the public square to actual dialogue, all I need is one mic. And I'd rather win your heart than win the argument. We're not comfortable that we can win anybody's heart. And we're not comfortable with our shared humanity. I've been in ministry long enough to know some sin you can see, some sin you can't. All have sinned, fallen short of the glory of God. So I don't feel like I got to call people out. Besides, I also recognize that some sin is by definition attention seeking. So you got to be careful calling it out, because it wants to be called out. So I leave it alone. Christ only dealt with the sin of the leaders. He didn't deal with individual people's sin. The only group he called out as sinners were the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the leaders. He didn't call every individual they brought to him as a sinner. He forgave. And he wouldn't play the game. Scripture says we should stone her. Well, let's see how that works. First person without sin, grab the biggest rock and go first. And we looked up. Now, to his credit, he looks up. He says, where are your accusers? She says, they're gone. He says, all right, I don't condemn you, but go and sin no more. I ain't covering it up. Yeah, I know this makes you nervous. Because some of you are thinking you shouldn't talk about sin at all, and others of you are like, you should be banging people over the head with sin. Your club ain't big enough. I've won more hearts in counseling sessions than I have from the pulpit. So I know what fights to have and win. And again, if you sit with me long enough privately, I'll just keep asking you, so how's that working out for you? Okay, I hear you. So how's that working out for you? Yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, man, I feel like that too. But how's that working out for you? Some of you spend some time with me. You know, I have an endless amount of patience for you to just run out of room. So, what is this about? All of this forgiveness is about God fixing chapter 3. That's what it's really about. It's about him fixing chapter 3. It's about getting us to come to terms with our shared humanity. And that means two things. Me recognizing chapters 1 and 2 are still in play. I was created in the image of God. And I do bear the image of God. Sin didn't kill that. But while I bear the image of God, I still have to bear the burden of sin. And the burden of sin is me dealing with the fact that my tendency is to cover my inadequacy and not confess it and turn from it. And in turning from my inadequacy, I turn to the adequacy of God. That's salvation. So when people say, you need to be saved, you need to be saved from the delusions generated by your inadequacy. That's what you need to be saved from. And the way you are saved from your inadequacy is to turn to God's adequacy. What is the greatest commandment? It is to love God with all your heart and soul. That's the greatest commandment, is to turn to his glory and recognize his love and his adequacy. Why do we love him? We love him because he first loved us. But in my inadequacy, I can't receive that love. So what is the mediator of my inadequacy? It's forgiveness. Forgiveness mediates my inadequacy because it doesn't call on me to become more than I am, and it doesn't call on God to become less than he is. That's the beauty of forgiveness. Forgiveness allows you to be sorry and suck. And we could still do relationship in our shared sorriness and my triflingness. So forgiveness allows me to remain trifle while I work through my trifling issues. And it allows you to suck, because you do, while we work through this thing and maintain relationship where I can suck and be trifling, you can suck, be trifling, and we still trust God and we can keep it moving. While, in a week I'll suck less. That's forgiveness. Just, yeah, that's forgiveness.